A world that doesn't exist. And I have solved it. What did Avery read in that book from the church that made him do one thing repeatedly for 12 hours straight? Why would Avery send this in chat at the end of episode 2? How could Darlord trick the king in yellow in his own world? And finally, who did Darlord actually see behind that gate? Like, whatever it was bad enough to make him full-on sprint out of there. But here's the thing that gets me. He didn't run straight away. Like, he just stood there for 15 whole seconds before he did anything. Why? Why are you just standing there? And even after episode 2 dropped, we still got 0 answers, which is insane to me. And okay, yeah, when Avery went through the same gate, it led to this hallway with a bunch of other gates, and we all know how that goes, but like, a hallway? That's it. That's not nearly enough to leave someone completely traumatized out of their mind. Something else had to have happened to Darlord. So here's what I actually think went down. I don't think Darlord saw a hallway, and I don't think he saw the king in yellow either. But real quick, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, this whole ARG is based on this book called The King in Yellow by Robert Chambers. Super cursed, go read it. So in episode 1, behind those doors, I think Darlord saw the second act of the play, and if you know the book, you already know why that's a big deal. The second act is basically described as this thing that's so disturbingly beautiful that your brain just can't handle it. Like, people don't go crazy because something scary jumped at them. They go crazy because what they saw was so consuming they can never stop thinking about it. It rewires you completely, and that is why Darlord stood there for 15 seconds before running. He wasn't frozen looking at a monster. He was reading. He literally could not look away. Truths about reality that humans were never supposed to know. Your brain just isn't built for it. It crumbles, which is literally why Darlord keeps saying his mind is corrupted in episode 2. That's exactly what happened to him. It wasn't a jump scare that broke him. It was knowledge. In the original book, it's kind of hinted at that reading the second act completely breaks how your sense of time. Darlord literally says he lost his sense of time in episode 2. People just glossed over that.
So I uploaded the video and went back. I have no idea how long it's been. I have no sense of time anymore.
To everyone saying Darlord saw the physical king in yellow and that's what made him lose it. That's not a thing. Like, genuinely go read the 1895 stories. Nowhere in there does it say looking at the king in yellow drives you insane. The only description we ever get of him in the entire book is a tattered yellow robe and a pallid mask. That's all we get. The madness comes from the play. Always has. Okay, and here's the part that actually got me. In the book in Quill, there's this block of random numbers that shows up, and by the end of the video, it turns out it's actually a coded message. It decodes to RVN, Avery, it's here. Darlord was the one who owned the laptop originally. Avery found the book way later, so how does Darlord know Avery's name? He shouldn't. There's no way. Unless the second act already ruined his sense of time and he literally saw Avery's future. Like, it stops being a straight line and just becomes this messy, jumbled thing. This proves the gate theory. Avery finding the laptop, loading into the world, walking up to the structure, and with whatever was left of his mind, Darlord ran back, wrote it all down, and tried to warn him. That's not someone who saw a scary monster and ran. That's someone who saw everything that was going to happen and desperately tried to stop it. Now, I want you to recall what happened in the episode 2 of the ARG. After Avery grinds through a ton of puzzles and doors, he finally lands in this completely new world, and at first, it genuinely looks easy. Like, the door to the next puzzle is right there in front of him. It's just sitting there. But as he walks closer to the gate, he notices something. There's a house-type structure that looks like a church, and that changes everything. He gets curious, goes inside, and yeah, it's definitely a church. Lanterns, candles, rows of seats, an elevated platform at the front, the whole thing. So Avery walks up to the platform and starts reading the book that's there. And here's the thing. Yeah, at first it's actually fine. Like compared to every other cursed, unreadable book we've seen in this ARG, this one feels almost calm. It's got 11 pages and it starts with, "You are safe here. Rest here. You are safe. Take shelter from that which haunts you. Nothing can reach you here. You are safe." It must be such a fearful thing to fall into a realm of which you do not belong. Worry not, you are safe here. Nothing can hurt you. Nothing can follow you here. Here where twin suns sink and strange moons circle in the skies, here you are safe. Nice, right? Comforting, almost. And then he turns to page 6. You are nothing, full stop. Tone completely flips, and then it's censored. Everything from page 4 to page 10 is just blacked out. At last, in page 11, it just says, "You are safe here again." We can see Avery reading it, but we have no idea what it says. And that's such a deliberate choice. Why were the first 3 pages totally fine to show us, but the rest had to be hidden? What was in there that was so bad it couldn't be shown? And then look at what Avery actually does after finishing the book. Avery just stays there for 12 hours straight on New Year's Eve. I am repeating this. 12 human hours. And starts taking care of the world, putting flowers on graves, cutting overgrown grass and ferns, filling up wells with water. He has a video of 15 hours and he's doing this for 12 hours. In that 15 hours, he ignored everything going on in his real life and just did this for half a day. That's the second act of the play. That's what was in those censored pages. Everything we talked about earlier, losing your sense of time, becoming completely consumed. Avery just lived it in real time. He couldn't pull himself out. He just got completely swallowed by it. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because in episode 2, we also see Darlord go through the same church, read the same book. But when he closes it, he doesn't do any of that. He doesn't tend to graves or wander around for 12 hours. He actually calls the book disgusting and just keeps moving. And the easy answer is, oh, Darlord is just built different. He's smarter. But think about it for a second. Darlord already went through this. Like at the end of episode 1, behind that gate, he already read the second act. He already lost his sense of time. He already had his mind cracked open by it. So when he sits down in that church and reads those pages, it's not new information to him. He's already been through it once and survived. He knows what it's trying to do to him. He knows it's manipulation. Yeah, he calls it disgusting because he recognizes it. He's seen this trick before and he's actively fighting against it. Avery had no idea what hit him. He walked in completely blind and the book just took over. But Darlord walked in already knowing the game and refused to play along. But there's still stuff about the second act that I genuinely cannot wrap my head around. In the crossroads, why did Darlord go left? Like, everyone's just brushing past this like it was a coin flip. Oh, it was 50-50. He just picked one. No way. Because if it was random, like, why did Darlord write an entire book about not going left? Why does he write it up like 4 separate times? Why is he so insistent? That's not someone who randomly picked a direction and moved on. That's someone who needs you to know desperately that going left matters, and we still don't really know why. Like, yeah, we know there's something behind the gates, but don't you think he could just say, do not go behind the gate instead of mentioning left a lot of times? That detail is sitting there, and I feel like nobody's giving it the attention it deserves. Anyway, everyone loves to talk about how smart Darlord was throughout all of this, and look, he was setting up traps, running tests to check if he was alone working through all the puzzles and tricks along the way. That's genuinely impressive stuff. He felt like he was always one step ahead, like he was outsmarting everything around him. People love him for that. I get it. But here's what I actually think. I think the King in Yellow let him do all of that. Not because Darlord wasn't smart, he was, but because the king didn't need to stop him. Every puzzle Darlord solved, every trap he set up, every test he ran, it was all just a path. And that path led exactly where the king wanted it to lead. Straight to those doors, straight to the second act. The king didn't need to block him or slow him down because the destination was always the same regardless. Darlord solving everything quickly just meant he got there faster. And this actually lines up with the source material. In Chambers' original book, it's heavily implied that the King in Yellow can see everything. Past, present, future, all at once simultaneously. He already knew whether Darlord could make it through every single one of those trials before Darlord even took a step. He designed the whole thing knowing exactly how it would play out. And on top of that, the king is known for luring people toward the play, specifically because he knows what it does to them. Like, he knows it infects whoever comes into contact with it. That's kind of his whole thing. So Darlord thinking he was outsmarting the King in Yellow is honestly kind of heartbreaking when you look at it like this. He wasn't 2 steps ahead, he was 7 steps behind. The king made Darlord think he was winning, but he was never playing his own game. Okay, so last thing before we move on, and this one actually messes with me the most, like after Darlord sees whatever he sees behind that gate, after he reads the second act and his mind is basically done, he runs to the right and you can see him try to mine through the wall. And after breaking through a few blocks, he ends up in this mine area where his video started from. That's the very beginning. You can also see him writing the book in this exact scene about not going left, the same book Avery finds later. So he runs from the gates, mines through the wall, ends up back at the start, and writes the warning. That's the sequence. But here's the part that I cannot figure out, and I'm genuinely surprised more people aren't talking about this. At the very beginning of Darlord's video, we see him mining from the right side, the opposite wall from the door on the left. He starts mining, finds a cave, finds some moss, trees, and eventually makes his way to that weird, unusual tree area that kicks off this whole rabbit hole. That's how the video begins. But then when he runs to the right of the crossroad and mines through, he ends up in that same mining area, the same one. So why is the crossroad there now? Where did it come from? At the beginning, there was no crossroad, just a wall he mined through into a cave. But somehow now there's this whole crossroad sitting there instead. Like, geographically, that does not add up, and I have no explanation for it. I guess we will get to understand this when episode 3 gets released. I am not just being hopeful that episode 3 is coming. I know it is going to happen, and here's why I'm so sure about that. At the end of episode 2, when Darlord punches Avery off the platform, something shows up in the chat. It says Cray Nudiswad, and at first glance, it just looks completely random. Like, okay, Avery got hit, probably fumbled his keyboard, whatever. That's what I thought too at first, but then I started actually looking at it, and it doesn't add up. The message showed up 74 frames after he got hit. That's roughly 1.23 seconds. That is fast. Like, that is really fast. And think about the sequence of inputs that would have to happen accidentally for that message to exist. He would have had to accidentally press T to open chat, then hold shift for the first 2 characters to get the greater than question mark at the start, then let go of shift, type out WDSWAD, and then hit enter to actually send it. All of that in 1.23 seconds while falling after getting punched. That's not a fumble keyboard. That's not an accident. If you look at YouTube playlist URLs, they all start with $V. Very similar. So this looks like it could be the beginning of a YouTube playlist link. This makes sense because we can see Darlord dropping a drive link in chat randomly in the library. Now, I did try plugging it in myself, and nothing comes up yet. No playlist, no video, nothing. But the key word there is yet. I think this is a breadcrumb, something that's been planted deliberately that we're not supposed to be able to follow up on right now. It'll probably only make sense once episode 3 drops and we have more pieces to work with. This whole ARG has been incredibly deliberate with every single detail, so there is no way that chat message was an accident. Okay, so this one is less of a theory and more of a question. A lot of question arrives here. How was the king tricked in his own world? Like, we just spent all this time talking about how the king can see everything. Past, present, future, all of it simultaneously. He's basically all-knowing. He engineered Darlord's entire journey, knowing exactly where it would end up. So how does something trick him in a place that he literally owns and controls? That's a massive plot hole, and I don't think enough people are pointing at it. And then there's the eyeballs. What if those weren't the king at all? Because here's the thing, and this actually supports everything we've been talking about this whole video. The book is very clear that the king in yellow does not have a physical form. He cannot manifest as an eyeball. He cannot show up as a fake human or any kind of physical embodiment. He is essentially a force, an idea, an influence. And the proof of that is literally everything that happened to Darlord. He didn't go crazy because he saw the king. He went crazy because he read the play. That's the mechanism. That's always been the mechanism. The king doesn't need to physically show up because the play does all the work for him. So if the king genuinely cannot take a physical form, then what were those eyeballs because they were something? And if they weren't the king, then that opens up a whole other door of questions about what else is actually in that world with Avery and Darlord. I don't have the answer to that yet. In episode 1, when Darlord goes into the water, there are multiple tunnels leading to different paths. And in episode 2, Avery gets that hallway full of gates. And the obvious question is, do the different paths actually matter? Like, if Darlord had chosen a different tunnel in that water, would things have played out completely differently? Would he have ended up somewhere else entirely? Could there be alternate outcomes sitting in those tunnels that we never even got to see? That's already interesting enough on its own. But then I thought about something that made it way more complicated. Why would the king make it harder for Avery to reach him? The king wants Avery. He needs him. He needs the vessel. The king literally engineered Darlord's entire journey to lead him exactly where he needed to go. So why, when it comes to Avery, is there suddenly this maze of gates and tunnels and multiple paths that could potentially send him the wrong way? If the king is all-knowing and all-seeing and he genuinely needs Avery to come to him, why make it a puzzle at all? Why risk Avery taking the wrong path? That goes against everything we know about how the king operates. It doesn't add up. Unless the paths aren't there to stop Avery. Maybe they're there to test him, to see what kind of person he is, what choices he makes, how he thinks. And the king is perfectly fine with either outcome because he already knows which path Avery is going to take. The king in yellow has no physical form. The book is clear on it. So then, who was following Darlord in the cave at the very beginning? Because something was there. Something physical. And here's the part that really gets me. Darlord's chunk trap. For that trap to actually work, for the chunk to generate, for the hopper to do anything, for the dirt to turn to grass, a physical entity needs to be standing in that space. That's just how Minecraft works. Something with an actual physical presence has to be there to trigger all of that. So whatever fell into that trap wasn't just a force or an idea or an influence. It had a body. It existed. What if the king in yellow isn't alone? What if this isn't just one entity, but more like an ideology, like a belief system with multiple players or entities all working toward the same goal? Like, what if the king is the idea at the center of it, and there are other beings, other followers, other forces operating underneath him that actually can take physical form and move through the world. That would explain the cave. That would explain the chunk trap. It wasn't the king himself. It was something else, something that serves him or believes in him or was infected by him. And then there's fake Avery. When Darlord was in the mountains world and this fake version of Avery showed up, that is a physical manifestation. Something appeared and presented itself as a real person, which again directly contradicts the book saying the king cannot be presented in any physical form whatsoever. But here's the wild part. Darlord tricked him. He made fake Avery fall. In the king's own world, in the king's own builds, Darlord outmaneuvered whatever that thing was. And that raises so many questions. If the king is all-knowing and all-seeing, how did his own entity or proxy or whatever fake Avery was fall for that? Did Darlord find a genuine blind spot? Or was fake Avery not actually connected to the king at all? Just another separate entity operating in that world with its own limitations? I think what we're looking at here is bigger than just the King in Yellow as a single villain. Now I have been going crazy over it, forming theories, trying to find out everything, couldn't find anything. At least after countless horrors of research, I came up a theory. The King in Yellow is not hunting Darlord and Avery, he's collecting them. Here's what I mean. The King in Yellow is not a person, he's not a monster, he's not even really a villain in the traditional sense. He is an ideology. He is a way of seeing reality that is so overwhelming, so all-consuming, that once it gets into your head, it never leaves. And throughout history, in the book, in this ARG, probably in ways we haven't even discovered yet, he has been spreading that ideology one person at a time through the play, through the second act. Because everyone who reads it gets infected with the same forbidden knowledge he carries. And once you have that knowledge, you become part of him in a way. You see what he sees, you know what he knows. Your sense of time breaks apart just like his. He's not building an army, he's building a consciousness, a collective of broken minds that all carry the same cursed truth. And that's why none of this was ever a fair game for Darlord or Avery. The king didn't set up those puzzles to be beaten, he set them up because he already knew they would lead exactly where he needed them to lead. Every trap Darlord set up, every puzzle he solved, every moment where it felt like he was outsmarting the world around him, the king let that happen. Because a person who feels smart, who feels in control, who feels like they're winning, that person keeps going. That person walks right through the door at the end, and that door had the second act behind it. Darlord was never 2 steps ahead. He was being walked to his destination by something that had already seen every step he was going to take before he was even born. But here's where it gets complicated, because the king is not alone in that world. And I think this is the piece that changes everything. Whatever was following Darlord in that cave at the beginning, whatever fell into his chunk trap, whatever showed up as fake Avery in the mountains world, those are not the king. The king has no physical form, the book is explicit about that, so those entities are something else entirely. And I think they are previous victims. People or players who read the second act before Darlord and Avery got completely consumed by it, unlike Darlord who fought back, and now exist in that world as extensions of the king's will. Not because the king controls them like puppets, but because the ideology took over completely, and now they just serve it, willingly. Because to them, what they're doing isn't serving a monster. To them, they found the truth, and they want everyone else to find it too. That's what makes the King in Yellow so genuinely terrifying compared to any normal villain. He doesn't force you into anything. He just shows you something so beautiful and so devastating that you choose to